Welcome to our third training for our comms consulting program. Today, we're going to be talking about PWN messaging and intro to content creation. So this one's going to be a little bit more interactive, and we're going to have some exercises for you all to practice. So I hope you're ready. Here's some logistics, same thing as always. We're going to be recording and then uploading the full recording and slides to the shared Google Drive so you can go back and watch it. And then an edited version will be added to our YouTube as well. Community agreements, which we're all familiar with. These are your trainers for today. Again, I'm Alex, they, them, am the communications assistant for PWN. Victoria, would you like to introduce yourself for the YouTube viewers?
Sure. I'm Victoria Siciliano, Communications Director at PWN. I use she, they, ella pronouns.
Wonderful. Okay, so for today, we're gonna do a quick check-in on how the campaigns are going. Then we're going to talk about PWN values, PWN messaging. And then we're going to talk about campaign values and or campaign messaging and branding. We're going to quickly touch on C3 compliance. Then Victoria is going to take us through some photography as storytelling, reviewing the different parts of a social media post, and then our best tips for how to use social media like a pro. And then we'll review the practice assignment for this week. So let's hop into our first topic of today. We're going to briefly review PWN values. You're all leaders in your chapters and in our voting campaigns, so you're very familiar with PWN values. But here's the list of all of them out. If you haven't seen them already, these are the 11 values that PWN is built on. This is our foundation. All of this information is available on our website. So self-identity, root cause analysis, changing the balance of power, prioritizing impacted communities, sustainability, meaningful involvement, ally, history, mentorship, accountability, and leadership development. So what we're actually going to do today is have you all practice giving us an elevator pitch. So I think you're all familiar with an elevator pitch, but if not, it's it's a chance for you to make a really good first impression. So within the first few seconds of meeting people, whether you're canvassing or talking to someone on the phones, they already are going to have assumptions and ideas about who you are. And an elevator pitch is a way to make a compelling, impactful introduction to who you are, to what PWN is, what we do, and why our campaigns matter. So today we're going to practice doing short elevator pitches to help you be prepared to talk about PWN's work and our values in a way that is first easy to follow and then second of all engaging. So you're going to have 60 seconds or less to tell us about one of PWN's values and then how that connects to our campaigns and why they should matter. So imagine you're talking to somebody canvassing or somebody on the phone. So you all probably have experience doing this, Selena, with your one-on-ones, MJ
Yeah.
canvassing, Kenya canvassing, and phone banking. So let's go back for a second. So these are the steps to creating a strong elevator pitch. So first of all, having a very nice warm greeting. Then you can share your name, your pronouns, what you do for PWN, and talk a little bit about what PWN is, like a sentence or two, keep it very brief. And then the last part is probably the most important. So explaining why we're doing this campaign, why we're focusing on these issues, what problem we're solving, and why they, as a community member, should be invested or why they should care about our issue. Do you have any questions so far about how this is going to work? Go ahead, Kenya. So Brielle isn't here, but basically what we've done is assign a random PWN value to each of you. And then we're going to walk through a little bit of information about what's on the website. And then based on this, you're going to have a few minutes to think about and come up with an elevator pitch. So that's Brielle. So MJ, you're going to be going first. So your value is going to be changing the balance of power. So at PWN, we recognize creating sustainable long-term solutions require changing who's in power and how that power is held. We value a power base of women and trans folks living with HIV, and we also value sharing power and consensus decision making. And at the bottom, I put a quote of things that we commonly use to message PWN, and we like to say that we're building the collective power of women and trans folks living with HIV. So it's going to be your elevator pitch. We're not going to do it just yet, but if you want to jot down some notes or some ideas, you're going to have a few minutes to think about introducing yourself, talking about what PWN is, and then talking about how PWN value, changing the balance of power, how that is connected to our campaigns. Does that make sense? Okay. So the next step is going to be your value for today is going to be leadership development. So we value developing ourselves as more effective leaders, identifying and supporting new leaders, and creating space for emerging ones. Do you have any questions about this? Okay.
No questions.
And then Kenya, I know you're feeling sick, so you're not going to be required to say this elevator pitch out loud, but if you want to also think of developing your own internal elevator pitch and your PWN value would be meaningful involvement of women and trans folks living with HIV. So MIPA. So we value the leadership, participation, input, and perspective of all women and trans folks living with HIV at every level of leadership and decision making. And then another popular phrase that we use at PWN, nothing about us without us.
Without us.
There it is.
Nothing about us without us.
So you won't have to share this out loud, but it'll also be good practice for you to.
Okay.
So I'm going to put this back up. So this is again all the different pieces of an elevator pitch: greeting, name, organization title, what PWN does, and then why our campaigns matter and how your PWN value is into our campaign. So we'll give y'all a few more minutes and then we'll start with MJ and then go to Selena. So MJ, whenever you're ready to do your elevator pitch, let us know. Again, this is a practice space, don't worry about having it perfect or, don't be too nervous. We're all here to learn from each other. And this is just a good way for you to start thinking about tying in, PWN's voice. You already are familiar with our campaigns. You already talked to voters and you know how to interact with them and persuade them. So it's just another practice. Is there anything to add, Victoria? No.
Okay. So, okay, I'll start. So, hello, my name is Mary Jane Mestis. How are you doing today? So I'm the comms campaign consultant with Positive Women's Network's IVE campaign that so far or right now, the campaign that's going on right now. And so one of the things that Positive Women Network does is we prepare and involve women and people of trans experience living with HIV in all levels of policy and decision making. We build power and we change culture and transform systems. So, like for right now, we're really talking about um, Amendment 79 in Colorado, and we would really like for you to find out, like, since I'm talking to you right now in this elevator, can you tell me how you feel about abortion and do you feel like we're safe in Colorado? What are your thoughts? And then I would just go on and then tell them about the bill and how important it is to get it implemented into the Constitution. And that would be it. And then I'd shake their hands and say, thank you for my vote. And what are you doing for lunch? That's
So good. You're
lunch.
so quick with it.
I'm always talking to people like always. So it's funny that my daughter says, Mom, you walk around and you talk to people like you're already a representative. I said, hello, that's how you do it. I said, I'm manifesting it every chance I get. So like when I'm out talking to people, I'm always talking about PWN and what we do because they're why I'm here, really. You're all why I'm here.
Love it. And that was a great way to incorporate the value and just talking about this is what we do. This is what we do
Hmm.
every day.
I may have forgot to throw in there about people living with HIV, but hello. I
No,
kind
you
of do
did.
that
You did.
everywhere I go. My daughter's like, you sometimes you just start the conversation. I'm like, well, sometimes it calls for that conversation. And then there's times that I don't want to wear the HIV hat. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
important. You also have to know, recognize when you're safe, who it is you're talking to.
Right.
But
yeah.
that was beautiful. That was excellent.
Thank
Is
you.
anybody else, Selena, do you feel like you are ready to go?
Um, uh, yes. So let's go for a cut. Okay, okay, okay. Where do I start? Okay. Hello. My name is Selena. I am a comms consultant for Positive Women's Network, and um, I forgot what I was supposed to say. Oh, I'm I want to talk to you today about who we are. Basically, we we are the only national membership body led by women and for women living with HIV, with over 3,000 members and 10 regional chapters. And this is what we do. We build leadership. We build and nurture leadership among women living with HIV, and we also build a strong base. We women led, and we build leadership among other women to build stronger leadership. So, so my question is, what what do you? My questions for you is, what do you believe in? What are your um, thoughts on the campaign going on this election? And okay, let's do lunch. I messed up a lot. Oh my God, I messed up. Okay.
Oh, you
But
did good. This is why we practice. So that, when you're out there with folks, it's not the first time you've tried it. But no, you did amazing. I think you did such a great job explaining who PWN is and what we do. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yes, I do it all the time. I do elevator speeches all the time. We just I got the spot. I do it all the time. I do it a lot. I do it a lot. I walk up to people, hey, how you doing? This is me. Hey, this is what I do. And I do it all the time. But I guess when I'm on the spot, I'm like, oh.
Love it. I love it. Well, this is a lot, what we also do in communications is just write down our elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is
Mhm,
just like a post when you think
mhm,
about it. You got to be
mhm.
snappy and give a lot of information really quickly and then move people to action.
Got you. All right.
Thank you both for
Thank you.
participating. That was really good practice, and y'all are naturals already. So if you want to use this to reference at any time in the future, it's a good place to, break down all the parts that you need for a good elevator pitch.
Okay.
So next we're going to move into PWN messaging. So talking about PWN's organizational voice and how we communicate ourselves and our values to the public. So at PWN, we practice language justice by using person first and non-stigmatizing language. We have a person first language guide that we have added to the shared Google Drive for you for full reference if you ever are working on something or you just want to check how your language justice is going. So that's an important thing for us, especially when we're communicating to partners and to community members. So one general tip is when you're on social media, we try to avoid using the full Positive Women's Network USA spelled out, just because you have limited character spaces on Twitter, for example, and it's just a lot of text and it makes it feel a little too overwhelming sometimes. So we instead opt for just PWN USA, or for example, for a chapter, PWN-Pennsylvania or Colorado or Texas. Greater Houston area. When we are messaging on social media, for example, another thing is that we do use some explicit language. We curse. It's okay to curse at PWN, but we tend to stay on the more mild side of that when we're communicating publicly so that we don't isolate certain portions of our target audience. So for example, we'll say, hell yeah, or we kicked ass today. Our campaigns are, doing the damn thing. Those are all pretty mild, but we like to mix it up. We like to, be relatable, but not very vulgar. And the last point is when we're discussing reproductive justice, for example, abortion access or abortion healthcare. We must be trans and gender inclusive, which we've talked a little bit about previously, but just reminding folks that women aren't the only ones who need abortions or abortion care. So instead of saying women's rights, try bodily autonomy or reproductive rights. And instead of saying, women when we're talking about abortion care, try saying people who give birth or people who have uteruses, those kinds of things, because women aren't the only ones who need abortions. And we want to be inclusive and not isolate any folks. Do we have any questions about any of these things? Or Victoria, do you want to add anything?
No, that was beautiful.
Wonderful. Let's hop right into PWN branding. Anjay, did you have a question?
I'm gonna say that what I use when I'm canvassing is usually I just say those that can get pregnant. For those that can get pregnant,
That's a good one.
because then that way there's no.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you. That's a good one. PWN branding. So these are some of the variation of our official PWN logos. So we have one in black and then one in white. And then a recent one that we developed is a PWN logo with the trans flag in it, just to remind people of our commitment to women and trans folks living with HIV. So if you ever do need PWN logos for flyers or things, you can reach out to us, but I think you can also upload copies to the shared Google Drive. So if we're doing anything that's like public facing, we always want to have our logo and our branding somewhere on there so they know who it's coming from. And it helps them create that mental picture and create that brand awareness so that they know who we are and what we do. Okay, so we're talking a little bit about campaign messaging. So this is specifically about our voting campaigns. So when we talk about them, we try to avoid technical jargon when talking to the public or when reaching out to non-PWN members and base. So we avoid things like IVE because the general public doesn't know what this acronym stands for, and it's not really going to hold a lot of meaning for them. If we're communicating internally or between our chapters or with our staff, our leaders, that's fine because people are pretty familiar with the acronym. But when we're talking publicly, we tend to go for voter engagement campaigns or just voter campaigns, something along those lines. Another thing is that when we're talking about this, we are clear that we can't vote our way to liberation, that voting is a tactic that we use to hold our elected officials accountable, to reduce harm for our communities, and to build a community of trust. Here are some of the main issue areas that our campaigns focus on: harm reduction, abortion access, decriminalization, and decarcerating public health. One of our main branding points for our voting campaigns is the hashtag PWN votes. Victoria, do you remember when this started?
I don't. I want to say, and I think some of y'all might know because you have been around with PWN longer than I have, but I know that around like 2016, a lot of resources started getting developed and branded. We had a lot of like for around like the 2018 elections, we really started looking forward to 2020 and that big general election. So I want to say around then, but I could be absolutely wrong. We'll have to follow back up.
Yeah, so that's a big one that goes on a lot of our campaign branding. It's just very recognizable. We've been using it for many years, and I think it's a really good way for, especially since it's a hashtag, if you're using it in social media, it's a good way for folks to kind of like search and find our campaigns. And then the last point about campaign messaging is the use of passive voice. So we avoid passive voice. So that is basically when we're saying that something happens without really specifically naming who's responsible for those things. So, for example, if someone says abortions are now criminalized in the greater Houston area, that's talking about what's happening, but it's leaving out a lot of context. And so when we're talking about our campaigns, we want to bring that context in. So we want to specifically state, like, state legislators in Texas have criminalized abortion, or in Pennsylvania, for example, city council people have removed funding for SSPs, for example. So those are the kinds of things that we try to do. We try to keep our elected officials accountable, especially these issues, these criminalization laws, for example, they all don't happen spontaneously. There's always system dynamics happening. There's always decisions being made by power holders. And so we want to keep that in the front of our mind. And then just a little bit about campaign branding. Here's our PWN Votes logo. So again, this goes on a lot of our public facing messaging. And then here are the flyers from our campaign launches. So just wanting to point out a few things. So if you see in the bottom left corner here, we have the PWN logo. In the Pennsylvania graphic, you can see there's a photo that we use from our canvassers. So we always try to include photos of our volunteers, of our chapters. It makes it more personal, it makes people feel more connected, and it's also fun that they get to see themselves be represented. And then in the bottom right corner, you can see the PWN Votes logo. And then the last thing I wanted to point out is at the top of these flyers, we also have our social media handles and our website, which is always just good information for folks to be able to connect with us in all the different ways and keep updated. And I think that's everything that I have. Tori, do you have anything to add about any of this, or do any of y'all have questions?
I don't have anything to add. I think that was great. Any questions? Awesome. All right. C3 compliance. We're always coming back to this, but we have a fun little exercise for y'all. One thing I want to make sure that we know, sometimes we get really, really scared of, we are a 501c3 organization. That means we are nonpartisan. These campaigns are nonpartisan. So we just try to stay away from everything that could possibly be considered partisan. And sometimes we're doing ourselves a disservice that way. And we could be saying more. We could be giving more information. So I think one of the best things for a communicator to do is just get down into the nitty-gritty of what is it that we're allowed to say and what is it we're not. We'll send you this link I found from AFJ. They have a really great comparison that is side by side of activities that are allowed by 501c3s and 501c4s.
Is a difference?
Yes. So we're 501c3, that means this is a nonpartisan campaign. We can't talk about, vote for.
We are a C3.
We're a C3. That's right.
Okay, not a C4.
Not a C4. That's right.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yep, perfect. So a C4 would be able to, lobby and campaign for specific candidates, even reach out to voters based on their voting history and encourage them to vote different ways. We can't do that. We just want everybody to go out and vote. And we want to remind them of the issues that most impact our communities, right? So for one, we can't conduct voter registration and get out the vote activities based on party affiliation or how people will vote. This is one thing I just mentioned. If we had a C4, we could, but we can't. We also can't distribute voter guides to the public that compare candidates on issues of importance to the organization. So that's a tricky one because you might be able to say, well, we're putting the way, candidates feel about these issues, but that's a really thinly veiled way of saying who to vote for, right? So unfortunately, we can't do that. And if you'll go to the next slide, Alex. All right, but here's some things we can do. We can conduct public education and training sessions about participation in the political process, as long as we are giving that information to everyone, no matter how they might vote. We are totally allowed to do that. We want everyone to be able to go out and vote no matter what barriers they have in front of them. We also can educate candidates on issues within the purview of the organization. So for instance, this past Saturday, in Houston, y'all had a candidate forum where you gave all kinds of information and even like reenacted dramatic scenes about abortion access. So as long as you're offering that information to all candidates, no matter what their affiliation is, that is still a nonpartisan activity, and we can absolutely do that. Here's another thing. You can absolutely criticize elected officials who are currently sitting. So we can absolutely say, you know what? I don't really like the way that Biden is handling X, Y, and Z. I wish, at this point, this White House would already have us all in healthcare, like free universal healthcare for everybody, please. We can absolutely do that as long as we don't attack personal characteristics or attack them in their status as a candidate. Say if Biden were to run again, which we know he's not, but if he was going to, then we wouldn't be able to talk about, well, I didn't like what he did this term, so don't vote for him next term. That kind of thing. We wouldn't be able to say. All right, go to the next slide and we're going to do a little practice. So we're going to turn a post that is C4, so partisan, into one that is compliant with 501c3 rules. So I'm going to read it to you and then y'all tell me what parts of this we need to take out or how can we change it to be 501c3 compliant. All right, so candidate A is a strong advocate for the ACA, for the Affordable Care Act, and has promised to expand and strengthen it. Candidate B tried to repeal the ACA on several occasions while he was president. If you support the Affordable Care Act, make sure you get to the polls in November. Healthcare for all, hashtag healthcare for all, hashtag vote for candidate A. So what parts of this are we still allowed to say and which parts of this are we not?
Candidate A is a strong advocate.
Right? Talking about specific candidates' positions on issues that are important to our organization. We can't do that. Yeah. Unless you can. You're okay.
Sorry.
Anyone else? Do y'all see anything else? How about what's something we can still say?
You can say that the candidate tried to repeal it. Right? I mean, you can say that, right? I mean,
So if let's say candidate B is currently in office now, we can say not as a candidate, but President B. President
D. Oh, that was 4 years ago. President D. Never mind.
Tried to repeal the ACA.
14 times, or I don't know, 14,000 times.
Right. But we wouldn't be able to say then after that, make sure you go out and vote, right? Because that's like a veiled way of saying don't vote for him. So we could still say, if you support the Affordable Care Act, make sure you get to the polls in November. Hashtag healthcare for all. We could still say that. That doesn't mention any candidates by name. We're just talking about an issue that is important to us and encouraging everybody to get out and vote for the issues that matter to them. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, so another one that is kind of what we were just talking about in this scenario, candidate A is currently president and is running for a second term. So we're saying candidate A spent their last term protecting the right to own firearms rather than people who may become victims of firearms. That's why I'm urging you not to vote for them in this upcoming election. Hashtag no more gun violence. What can we say? What can we not say?
We can't. We really can't say anything about candidate A because he's running, right? I mean, or can we if he's already if candidate A is currently president and is running? Okay.
We can't say. That's why I'm urging you not to vote for them this upcoming election.
That's
Yes, good
right.
catch.
That's exactly right. If you just take out that part, the rest is 501c3 compliant. We can say candidate A spent their last term protecting the right to own firearms rather than people who may become victims of firearms. Hashtag no more gun violence. We can absolutely talk about that. Not even mention the election, the fact that they're running. Let people make up their own minds about what that means. All right, and let's go to the next one. Okay, so then this one says PWN supports everyone's right to migrate and seek prosperity and safety in their new home. Hashtag no borders, no walls. Candidate B has repeatedly stated that they would enact harsher penalties for border crossings, increase deportations, and make it harder to seek asylum in the US. Hashtag immigrant vote, hashtag stop separating families. What can we say? What can we not?
Candidate B has repeatedly stated that they would enact harsher penalties for border crossing, increase deportations, and making it harder to seek asylum in the U.S.
Perfect, Kenya. Nailed it. That's exactly it. If you take out that, you can even keep the other hashtags. You can keep immigrant vote, you can keep separating families, no borders, no walls, and we can talk about what PWN supports. It's just the issue. All right, perfect. Y'all got this. Let's go to the next.
The point is not to tell nobody what to do.
Exactly. We're not telling anybody who to vote for. We're not talking about what candidates support and what they don't. We're just talking about what we believe in and encouraging everybody to vote. All right, so now we're going to get a little bit into photography. I love photography, and it is one way that we can tell a story while we are capturing the process of our campaigns. It's a really good way to capture what we're doing. Let's go to the next one. All right, so first up, you want to get your device ready. Probably you're going to be using a smartphone. I'm sure y'all have heard that one study found that phones carry 10 times more bacteria than toilet seats. It's so gross. Phones are so dirty because they're in our hands all the time. So the first thing you want to do is clean it because a clean lens will mean a clear photo. So first off, as much as you can, avoid, I'll put it in front of me, there we go. Avoid touching your lens with your finger, don't do that. Then I've got over here a little cloth that is what I use to clean my glasses. They're really, really great for also cleaning your device screens and lenses. You want to wipe in a circular motion with a microfiber cloth or something like that, like a soft cloth. Don't spray any sanitizer directly onto your device. And usually the best thing to clean with would be a mix of rubbing alcohol and water. So you can spray a little bit on the cloth and just rub gently. And you'll get you'll be amazed at what a difference it makes. It really does. Also, if you have a sparkly or a shiny phone case, sometimes you'll see it'll cause a lens flare, which is like where lights are will seem like they're coming from weird places that are not light sources in the photo. That'll be a reflection of your phone case. So just something to keep in mind. We can go to the next one. All right. So another trick I love telling people is keep your phone still while you're taking the camera. And a way that I like to do that is I hold it with both hands and then I keep my arms close to my body, anchored up against my body for support. Because if you've got your arms away from your body, you're still going to notice that you're shaking your device just a tiny little bit. But if you give yourself, just anchor your arms against your body and prop yourself up for support, it'll help keep your phone a lot more still and you'll get nice, clear pictures. Also, avoid digital zoom. You know how if you're trying to take a picture of something far away, you can just pinch open the screen and it'll just zoom in. So that actually is going to decrease the quality of the image as you zoom in. So instead, just try moving closer to the subject if you can. If you can't and you have to use digital zoom and you're going to get a lower quality photo, but it's still better than no photo at all, but it's just something to keep in mind. And finally, this is like the number one thing with photography. The better the light, the better the photo. If your subject looks too dark, you can try moving closer to a window or another light source. But of course, natural light is always the best light. So try to, get it outside. You also, outside, if it's the middle of the day and the sun is really harsh, just take a look at like the shadows and everything falling on your subject's face. Just be aware of that. And if you have the sun behind somebody or they're backlit, then they're going to be dark and all you're going to be able to see is the light behind them. Another tip is just to take multiple pictures every time you're trying to get one, and then choose the one that you like best. You never know when somebody's going to blink. A lot of phones have burst mode. That means every time you go to click a picture, it'll take 3 or 4 for you, and then you can pick the best one. That's a really good way to do it without having to sit there and click, 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 click. All right, any questions about this so far? Awesome. All right, let's go next one. All right, here's where it gets more fun. So a picture's going to tell a story. Let's look at this one, and this is an exercise in how cropping a picture in different ways is actually going to tell a totally different story. So you've got these lifeguard boats over here that are clearly anchored. Nobody's in them out in the water. You've got a sign that says beach closed, dangerous conditions. And you've got a surfer that is just walking into the ocean anyway. So depending on how you crop the picture, it's going to tell a different story. If you see like the purple outline, it's just on a wave in the ocean. If you were to crop this image in that way, you would only see, oh, wow, look at the beautiful waves in the ocean. It's not telling you any of the other information that is in the shot. If you see the red line around it, it just includes the lifeguard boats. You get a little bit more information, a little bit more perspective. You're like, oh, okay, there's no lifeguards in the water. That's all that's telling me. Then if you add in, okay, the beach is closed sign next to the lifeguard boats, then you can see, well, obviously they're not out in the water because there's nobody to go and rescue, right? And then if you zoom out all the way, you see actually there is somebody coming out there that they would probably need to rescue if only he had read the sign. So it's just an exercise to look at and be mindful of. Look at the surroundings and all of the information that different pieces of your landscape could give you. And as you're choosing, what to take a photo of and what story it's going to tell. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so then like anything else we do, we start out thinking about what is this about? Why are we taking a picture of it? The main subject can be a person, it can be an object, it can also be a mood or a feeling. What if you're trying to capture the feeling of teamwork in your campaign and you've got a photo of everybody pitching in and working together, lifting something heavy or, there's a million ways that you can capture that. Think about what it is that you're trying to tell in the story. And then second of all, just keep it as simple as possible. If there's something that's going to be in the shot that doesn't add to the story, try to move so that it comes out of the picture. Exclude it. To build a great composition, you have to learn to take things out. It's like how Coco Chanel always said, like, take one thing off before you walk out the room. It's the same with any kind of design or composition. You don't want to overwhelm the senses. You don't want to go for too much, but just enough, right? If something is distracting or competing for attention or it's too bright, take it away because that's where the eye is going to go instead of what the story you're trying to tell, and just go for clarity. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to compare two pictures and they look a lot like the pictures that we take. So we're going to compare photo 1 and photo 2. Let's go to the next slide. So the next slide has photo 1. What can you tell us about what's happening here? Just take a look and just shout it out. What do you think is happening? What story is this picture telling?
Looks like they're signing a petition or signing up for something.
Mm-hmm. What else? What can you see in the photo?
Somebody's staring at the let's take a picture.
There's somebody back there photobombing.
Like, what? I am in the
The,
picture.
the picture really doesn't tell you anything because it doesn't really tell you who well, it kind of says the group vote. Does it say vote on the shirt?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It
So
says
he's
vote. So
wearing
maybe it's registering voters.
right? Yes. So you've got some pieces of information. For one, you can tell they all look kind of young. It looks like maybe they're in something like a college campus or
It
something.
looks like a college campus. It
Campus.
does.
Yeah. Young people, younger. Yeah, it's college students signing up.
They look like college students. You
Mm-hmm.
can see he's tabling his shirt and the tablecloth are the same color, so he's volunteering or working for some kind of organization. It has the logo of the organization he's working for. It says
Yes.
"can vote." I don't know, but you can also, if he had turned a little bit more towards camera, you could
Hold
almost
on.
see the website underneath the logo, but you can't quite make it out.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can
Mm-hmm.
see he's got some forms on the table. He's got some people looking and interested in what he's doing. You've got somebody signing up. So how could we have gotten more information about what they're doing? I already said
Uh,
if he had turned a little bit more, we could have seen the website on his t-shirt.
Normally, I would try to take the picture. I get in line, then I take a picture of the table. If that makes sense,
Yeah,
with the brochures on it. I take the picture of the person. Hey, do you want to take a picture? And take a picture of the table that they're with the brochures on it. Also, you know,
absolutely.
yeah, I
If
do
we
things like that.
Yeah, if we had gone back a little more, we could maybe see there's more information on the table or more logos or what is it that they're doing. But all in all, it's pretty good. You can see a logo in it. It's an action
Mm-hmm.
shot. You can see that he is there signing people up either to volunteer or to register to vote or something to do electoral. All right,
People in action, right?
action. And then let's go to photo 2. All right, so what do you know here? What's happening here?
It looks
Um,
like a crew, like us, like with our tags on and taking a picture of everybody that's volunteering that day. Or
right.
I think there could be more information, of course, probably in the caption of who they are, but for right now, it looks like they all either work for the same company or they're all volunteering.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And assign unity. Assign unity.
Yeah, yeah. They look like a team, right? They're together,
Team.
they've got their arms linked, they have the same tag on. But that's about as far as we can tell, right? It looks like they have that canopy behind them, so it looks like they're at some kind of outdoor event.
Yeah, they're probably doing
However,
COVID tests. I'm just kidding.
right? It could be
Yeah.
they're also registering voters. We have no idea what they're doing. And I think a lot of times we fall into this trap because we're taking a really cute picture of our team, but we're not really telling a story. And so think about maybe they had zoomed back a little more than we would be able to see. Is there a sign or anything in the booth behind them? Are they giving out food? Are they giving out, COVID tests? Like, what is it that they're doing? They don't have any like volunteer t-shirts or anything on, so it can't really tell us, who they're working for or what they're doing. It's just like basically just a cute group shot of that maybe work together. So always think about what story are you telling. There's definitely a time and a place to get a picture like this. Sometimes the story you're trying to tell is, look how many volunteers we had come out to work with us today, in which case that's really acceptable. But the more action you can get into it, the more information you can get into the photo, the better it's going to be to tell your story. All right, let's go to the next thing. All right, now we're getting into just very quickly kind of the anatomy of a social media post. Let's go to the next. Okay, so first up, an eye-catching image. So important. It's so few and far between when we actually post something without an image or a video now. Just a caption by itself is not prioritized by the algorithm, like we talked about last time. Maybe a lot of people aren't going to see it, and there's nothing to really stop you from scrolling, right? But an eye-catching image is going to stop that scroll and be like, huh, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Then you want your copy, your the words on your post to be short and engaging. This is a statistic that blew my mind. The posts with the highest engagement on Facebook have an average of 50 characters. 50 characters, an average of 50 characters. That is so, so small. That's like my name and a couple other words.
Yeah.
Like super, super short. So people's attention spans are short. We have to make sure every single character counts. Then the right hashtags. And another way to think about this is not really putting hashtags on there that you want your followers to use, which we certainly do that sometimes. We're letting people know, hey, this is a hashtag you can use to follow a specific campaign or a specific issue that we're working on. Sure. But also make sure you're including hashtags that your followers are already using so that they can find you. And then finally, every post is a call to action. Every post. Even if the call to action is look at me, look at what I'm doing. That's still a call to action. No matter what you're doing, you're asking somebody to either pay attention or to sign a petition or to volunteer with you or just to be aware of the issue that you care about, right? So keep that in mind every time you create a post. And then next, here's just some more tips about what to put in and what to leave out. So sometimes too much information is just as bad as not enough. It'll be like, whoa, okay, information overload. You kind of want to keep a post to be about one subject. If you're trying to talk about too many things at once, for the most part, put the most important one at the top because that's the one that people are going to see. It'll usually just make people scroll on by to the next thing. Also, too many hashtags and too many emojis. It just dilutes your message. So again, less is more. Think about really strategically about which ones you're going to use and why. Also, no more than one link per post. That's again, a link is a call to action. I want you to click here. Well, what if I put two? Do I want you to link here or do I want you to click here? So also let it be a short link. Have you ever tried to send somebody a link and it's one of those that just has an endless chain of information and it's like 5 lines long? It just goes on and on and on. You can use link shorteners like bit.ly or tinyurl. Any questions about that so far, about what to put in and what to leave out?
I was just gonna say the photo to me is like the most important, like because it's the first thing they're gonna see. Like for instance, the other night, I don't know if y'all saw this picture that I posted on that I took the other night, but my camera is unreal. I took this picture of the moon.
You
Look
took
at
that picture?
I
It
took
looks
it
like
with
a
this phone,
National Geographic picture.
and this is the new S24 Ultra. It's the best phone. And so like you put it on 100 times and then it takes a second to get it in the little square because you're like every little bit you move it, it goes. So you gotta like be very, very careful, get it in the little square, and then once you get it in and it turns yellow, click on. Oh my gosh. I was shocked on the photos that I was getting of the moon that night. I can't wait till the full moon.
That's
But
amazing. You're almost there.
That's
I can't wait to
beautiful.
yeah. They're on my Facebook, but yeah. It's crazy how a photo can really get you, like any photo really, as long as
absolutely.
we taken right.
Um, and finally, convenience matters. So I can't tell y'all, and this is kind of shameful, but it's kind of the truth. I can't tell y'all how many times somebody really got me with their fundraising copy, like with their pitch, asking me to donate. But then when I went to click on donate, and there were like 3 or 4 more steps, and I had to go through all this and then input this and that, and then they asked me to sign up for this and that before I even was able to like click and get to the donate page. And I was finally like, you know what? I don't have time for this. I'll do it later. And then I never get back to it. I I wonder how many like millions of donation dollars have been lost that way. And how many million, like how many, petition signings and how many like actions that you want people to take have not been taken, not because people aren't interested or don't want to, but because it's too fussy or yeah, you're just asking too much. So convenience is really important. Make it as easy as possible to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to get somebody to do, and they're so much more likely to do it. Okay, and then we're gonna have a little conversation about AI because it is all the rage these days. We want AI to do everything for us. Sometimes it's really nice, and sometimes there can be drawbacks. So, one thing that's really I've been enjoying using AI for is to take out distracting information in a picture. We just talked a lot about the importance of keeping it really simple. This is from an advertisement of like an AI photo editing thing. You can see in the first one, it's highlighted in blue. There's a lot of people in the background. Um, and the girl was like, wouldn't it be so great if it looked like I was here all by myself? Well, you can easily accomplish that with AI now. Used to be you'd have to go in with Photoshop and remove every single person individually, and it would take you so much more time. Now, you don't have to worry about it. You can create specific images that are hard to find. So I can't tell you how many times I'm scrolling through Canva trying to find the perfect little thing. And I'm just like, I can't quite find it. I want some hands holding a pink flower, but it just keeps showing me, white people's hands. And I want to show like brown skin hands because we have so many brown skin members. And I want our representations in our graphics to look like our members. Then you can go in here, like this is an actual thing I did in Canva. I put in, it says describe what you'd like to create. It's still in beta testing, so it depends what you get. I put a nonpartisan, get out the vote mascot. What would the mascot look like? You can put in what kind of style you'd like to see it in down at the bottom and generate graphic. And this is what it spit out with. whether they're good or bad, they're pretty generic. Like you've got like Voti down here at the bottom left, kind of looks like, you know, an ad for Puerto Rican tourism. You've got a little dog with a red hat. I don't know what's going on here, but you might get, the more you play with it, certain images that you might not be able to get any other way. It does just take some finagling and kind of playing around with it until you get exactly what you want. Another way that I like using it is like, so this is from Chat GPT. If you're just like tired and you're looking at a blank page, like, oh, I know that I need to write this, but I don't even know where to get started. You can go on here and use it as a first draft, and then you can copy, you can edit the copy to give it style and a voice and some flair. So here I typed, I asked it, write me a nonpartisan social media post encouraging people to take advantage of early voting. And it spit back, early voting is a great way to make your voice heard and ensure you have the flexibility to vote at a time that works best for you. Whether you're busy on election day or just want to avoid the crowds, early voting is a simple and secure way to participate in our democracy. Check your local voting dates and locations and make sure your voice counts. Hashtag early voting, hashtag your vote matters, hashtag democracy in action. So then I could take this and it's a really good start, but I could add in some PWN flair, some voice, some hashtags that have to do with, like PWN votes and the issues that we're working on. And I can add in links that, will take people to find out how they can find out more about early voting dates in their state and that kind of stuff.
I was just gonna throw on that too is what I use my AI. It's called Gemini, Google Gemini,
Mhm.
and it's amazing. I mean, there's so many times that I have to write a speech and I'm like, I know what I want to say, and I just put all the keywords in, and then bam, I'm like, whoa, that's and so then I go in and change like you said, and it really gives you that first, yeah, really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, I
I
love it.
love it for a first draft. Again, if you just put back out into the world what AI spit out at you, it's going to be kind of generic. But if you just use it as a base and as a first draft, it just starts, it can start sparking off your inspiration and get you going. And sometimes that's the hardest part. I know that's the hardest part for me is just looking at a blank page like, oh gosh, I don't even know where to get started. So here's a really, really funny encapsulation of the drawbacks of AI. This is supposed to be me, y'all. This picture is supposed to be me. So I
Oh,
said, okay, I put in my actual headshot and I said, give me a headshot. And that's it. And I don't know. First of all, I instantly lost like 120 pounds.
I
It
love
made
it.
my,
You lost weight faster than
right?
me.
The quickest way to lose weight is AI.
Holy cow. Why would it do that? Well, why wouldn't it just change the background and leave the Yeah, that's weird. What AI do you
wow.
use? Is there something that you use that's different?
I can't even remember which one I used.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
was, it turned my eyes blue. I'm like, I don't have blue eyes, I have brown eyes, and I love my brown eyes. Thank you very
Oh
much.
my
Yeah, what
goodness.
does that tell you? It turned you white?
Right. You can see my skin, it changed my skin tone. It made me
What the F?
whiter than I already am. I'm like, okay, that's not me. That doesn't look anything like me. And it also just looks kind of weird. Like it kind of looks like I'm made out of plastic. I'm like,
Right.
okay, this is weird. So
It is weird.
it is, right?
Definitely.
I started calling it the abomination. Have y'all heard the term uncanny valley?
Mm.
So
Mhm,
let me see.
mhm.
Note to self, don't use
Right?
Yeah,
AI for
AI.
photos.
So AI is notoriously bad. At this point, I'm sure it'll improve, and they're working really hard to improve it now on faces and hands. Sometimes when you're trying to generate pictures with human faces and human hands, it doesn't know what to do, and you end up with all kinds of creatures from your nightmares, y'all. Like scary, scary stuff. Um, Uncanny Valley is a term that is it's a psychological phenomenon that describes the feeling of unease or disgust that people experience when something is almost human, but not quite. And a lot
Mm.
of times I've seen The Polar Express. Do y'all remember that movie with, like, I guess it was Tom Hanks from way back in the day?
Oh, there.
It was like it was like a
They were creep.
CGI kind of animation where they
Right.
animated over the like actual actors' faces, and it just
Yes.
looks like everything is made of plastic and it's very strange. Well, people were really wigged out. A lot of people were really wigged out by that.
I would. I would have too.
And
I would
another
have
thing
loved
we
that.
already talked about, but you can see with this headshot example, is AI is going to reflect the limitations and biases of its creators, aka human beings. Meaning it's going to be racially biased. It's going to be like, oh, you want to look better? Here you go, be skinny and blue-eyed and light-skinned. There's so much in about AI and like facial recognition software where it just like doesn't know what to do with the faces of people of color. And that is just a limitation that, reflects back the biases of human beings at the moment. So just be really like, sometimes you'll just, if you put in like, okay, give me a picture of a crowd, it'll be a crowd of mostly white people. And that's just the way it goes. So keep that in mind as you are using AI. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Alex, unless y'all have any questions for me about AI or, yeah, the contents of a social media post, images, any of that stuff. Okay, perfect. Well, then I will let you take it away, Alex, and welcome back.
Thank you. I'm back. MJ, did you have something? No? Okay. Alrighty. So I do know that we only have 5 minutes left, so we're gonna try to get through this very quickly. But if you can all stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes after, that would be super greatly appreciated. We're almost done though. So we're gonna go through some of the best tips for how to use social media like a pro. So we're first going to talk about our main social media platforms that we use at PWN. So the first two are Facebook and Instagram. So Facebook is the primary way that our members connect to each other. It's the way that they interact. And a lot of our members are pretty familiar with Facebook, so they use that to stay updated on all of the events and all of the different things that we have going on. It's the second source for petitions, actually, which I found really interesting. Anyone guess what the number one source for petitions is? Where do you get most of your petitions on?
Facebook.
Facebook. Selena,
I'm thinking Facebook also.
Facebook. Yeah, it's the second most popular source. The first most popular source is email. So
Mm.
we get a lot of petitions in our email. Some of the popular and unique features about Facebook is that they have organizational pages like we have for PWN. They have groups like we have for our chapters, and you can also create events with details and links for people to register. Instagram relies on visual appeal. It's also been a really great channel for us to build relationships with partner organizations, to connect with each other. And it is also the most popular social media platform for people aged 18 to 29. So if you want to reach out to a lot of younger folks to get out the vote, for example, or you want to, collaborate or build relationships with partners, Instagram has been for PWN the best place to do so. You can go to the next one. And then the last two biggest ones that we use is Twitter, aka X, and TikTok. Twitter is primarily based on short word messages, and there's a lot of focus on organizing. Sharing news is a really big one, and initiating discussion. The caveat for Twitter, though, is that it has become to decline in popularity. due to recent ownership changes and the proliferation of right-wing extremist rhetoric. So for, I think about, at least since I've been here, I think our Twitter following has pretty much consistently decreased. And it's not necessarily that people aren't like are unfollowing PWN or aren't interested in our messaging anymore. It's just that a lot of people are leaving. Like I think they've lost like 20 to 30% of their monthly users in the past year. And then TikTok, which is the opposite. It's the fastest growing social media platform with users across all age groups. And on TikTok, short form videos perform the best and authenticity is highly effective. Go to the next one. So some of our best tips for creating content, like we talked about earlier, the human attention span is very short these days, especially on social media, because there's just so much information and content being thrown at everybody. So the average attention span for watching video is about 5 seconds. So you have 5 seconds to make an impact and grab someone's attention very quickly. We want thumb-stopping content. We want people to take a pause and be curious and want to pay attention, want to read, want to see what we've got going on. Another important thing to keep in mind is that each content on social media has a shelf life, which is basically the average amount of time that it stays in the algorithm, that it stays relevant and on people's timelines. So here it is based on each social media platform. So for Facebook, posts stay in the algorithm about 3 days. Instagram is 2 days. Twitter is only 6 hours. It's just there's just so much going on Twitter that you only have 6 hours for it to get its interactions before it's kind of just left where it's at. And then TikTok actually has a shelf life of 90 days, which they stated themselves, which is really interesting how long it is. The ideal balance for social media content is about 1/3 education, 1/3 mobilizing, and 1/3 entertainment. You don't want to just be educating folks because then it gets kind of boring, gets stale. They're not on social media to do research or write a dissertation. They're on social media to be entertained, to be informed, to see what's going on, and find ways to participate. And then one of the last tips is avoid begging for engagement. It's cheesy. It doesn't really work. It makes people feel disconnected because it just feels very disingenuous. So try to avoid begging for people to like it or to share with a friend. It's okay to do it every now and then when it's used tastefully, I would say. You can go to the next one. Some more tips. We talked a little bit about hashtags earlier, but it's a good way for explorers to search for content that they want to engage with. Like for Twitter and for Instagram especially, you can just put in a hashtag into the search bar and then type something in and then see all the posts that have that hashtag included. So it's a good way for people to branch out and find content based on their interests. So that's why it's good to use a few of them very effectively. Another tip, whenever we're doing hashtags, we always want to title case them for accessibility. So for example, in repro justice, you want to capitalize the first letter of every word. For people who have limited vision, if they use a screen reader, for example, if you don't capitalize any of it, it's very difficult for the software to process and to communicate that to its user. So that's just what we try to do for the most accessibility. There are a maximum number of hashtags to be efficient on each platform. You can make way more than this, but based on some research, the best number of hashtags for Facebook and TikTok is about 5. Instagram, 12 at the max. You don't necessarily need to do all 12. And then Twitter is about 2. So we don't want to oversaturate because then it looks spammy. The algorithm probably won't like it very much. But using very specific ones like PWN votes and repro justice, for example, like short, simple, to the point, and still effective. Another great tip is to make sure you have complete biographies across all of your profiles, consistent cover photos and avatars. So using the PWN logo, for example, as the profile picture, it helps with that brand awareness. So across all of the social media platforms, they always know who we are. Take advantage of each of the platform's unique features. For like Facebook groups, for example, on Instagram, the story stickers are really popular. They also have polls in the stories. that are really fun to use. And then of course, TikTok is very well known for its music, for its stitches, for its lip syncing kind of things. So a lot of times what we've been seeing is that social media platforms are trying to copy each other. They all want to do the same thing. They all want to offer the same thing as each other. Instagram now has Reels, which is mimicking TikTok's success on short form videos. And so that's not always, it's not always the best thing to do. So use what's specific and what's unique to each of your different platforms to make the most out of it. And then the last tip, show emotion, build real relationships, and share victories and momentum. We don't want all just doom and gloom. We want people to know that our work is having an impact, that we are having victories, that there is stuff to celebrate. And of course, showing emotion. We want to be authentic. We want people to feel something. Remember, if someone feels something, they're 65% more likely to take action. And you can go to the next one. Okay, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but this is a quick little snapshot of the way the different algorithms work across our social media platforms. So algorithms basically use AI to direct social media content to specific users based on their past history on that platform. So the main goal for the algorithm is to keep people online, to keep them engaged. So it tries to give them content that they're going to like, that they're going to engage with. And they utilize your social graph by doing that. So not only do they look at the activity that you're doing on their social media platform, but they also looked at your friends, the people that you're following. They kind of branch out like 1 or 2 generations to see what people like you, what people you interact with, what they do on social media, what they like, to kind of expand the reach and to try to find you the content that is interesting to you. And there also is a thing called recommendation engines, which use similar software that prioritizes content that performs well across audiences and groups that are similar to you. So recommendation engines don't necessarily use your specific data. It uses a general information based on the entire audience or groups that are kind of similar to you. And on the chart, we have like a little breakdown of how each of the platforms use their algorithms. So the main 3, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, have a blend of algorithm and recommendation. And then TikTok, interestingly, is only a recommendation engine. There's not an algorithm, despite sometimes it feels like that. I know I'll talk about something with my partner and then go on TikTok and there's an ad for the exact thing that I was mentioning. So just some further information that could be useful when you're developing content. You could go to the next one. Okay, that's it. That's the end of our content for today. Does anyone have any questions about any of the things that we covered today? Or Victoria, do you have any last things you want to add?
No, thank you so much for that. That was super interesting. For one, I didn't know that about TikTok's like recommendation engine. I feel like TikTok is so good at putting the right kind of content in front of you. When I first started using it, it was like it just didn't know me at all. And it kept putting all kinds of stuff in front of me that I was like, I don't know, whatever. Why is everybody so obsessed with TikTok? And the more you use it, it's like it starts reading your mind. It starts connecting you with all the things you care about. And it really, I think that's why it's so powerful and why it's grabbing so many people across like demographics and interests.
I love TikTok.
It's so easy to just fall down a TikTok rabbit hole.
I was just thinking because I have one video that has went viral, which is why I have almost 20,000 followers on TikTok. But it's wanted me throwing a can of soup at some ex-president, and it has like almost 500,000 views on each time I have. So I did it once, I got almost 500,000, and then I redid it and I got almost 500,000. So I'm thinking I'm gonna redo it again right now because I'm just thinking like to build my because as soon as I put that out, I will have hundreds of people commenting and calling me down, and I let it all go through. I don't care because every time they click, every time they I'm getting a quarter of a penny or whatever it is, and then, you know, it adds up. Great meeting.
Alrighty. So, no other questions. We're gonna talk about our take-home practice assignment for this week. So if you want to go to the next slide, this week we're going to be doing a volunteer spotlight, which some of you have already been working on. You're ahead of the game. But this week we're going to get started on creating content. So we're going to practice doing a volunteer spotlight. We're going to identify a volunteer at phone banking or canvassing that would be interested in, participating in this little project for social media. So you utilize all of the information that you got today on how to take the perfect action shot, composition, telling the story, the anatomy of a social media post, everything that we talked about. And we either can get a picture with somebody and a written quote from them, or if you're feeling extra spicy, you can record a short interview video. And think of one or two questions that you can ask one of our volunteers that helps convey the importance of our campaigns and why they are taking action with PWN. So we're going to use this as a way to motivate folks to join us for volunteering as we're getting close to the election date. We're going to get started with our Get Out the Vote campaigns, or the Get Out the Vote portion of our campaigns. So this is the perfect time for us to recruit some last minute volunteers to help us meet our numbers, to help us knock on those doors and call those communities.